On a very different episode of Let Me Tell You Why That's Funny, this month we're going to be looking at the long form joke. This episode will be made up of a Skype clip of me telling someone a long form joke, and then an explanation as to how that joke is put together in the classical 3-act structure. So, if you just want to skip the joke itself and find out about the structure, I'll put a timestamp below. If you want to watch the whole thing, then here it is.
So there's this fella whose job is to oversee all the trains in Bulgaria. He's been at it a while. He's applauded as being quite good at his job, but there is one thing that's known about him. He's quite dedicated to making those trains go as fast as possible. And for a good while, he was content to abiding the laws that the country had set up as to how fast trains can go. But you do it for long enough, and you just get this need to push past that. And he goes above the allotted speed limit of trains for the country one day. And unfortunately, this results in a terrible accident. Train just barrels into the station one day too fast. Boom, comes off the rails, knocks into a wall, shakes the whole carriages about. 2 people in the train die as a result of this. The dude who works for the trains is sent to court, and they need to make an example, essentially. And they say, like, fella, we're going to throw the book at you on this so no one else ever has the idea to go above these sensible laws that we have in place. And we're going to sentence you to death. And they send this guy away to prison, sits there on death row waiting for his execution date. Execution date comes rolling on. Say, well, fella, says the executioner, tomorrow's the day. What do you want for your last meal? The train guy, he says, I would like for my last meal 1 banana. The guy says, okay, you can have anything. He says, no, 1 banana. So he has his banana. It's banana. Next day, it's a very tense situation. They load him into the execution chamber there. They strap him into, let's say, a chair with collars on, collars on his hands, sponge on the head, bucket on his dome, pulls the switch. Priest is there doing his diddly daddly, and the lights go on and off, smoke flying out this guy's ears, sparks coming off the chair, lights come back on. Still alive. Didn't kill him. Everyone's quite confused by this. There's chatter back and forth about what this can mean legally, and they eventually come to the decision, well, the sentence was death. The sentence has been carried out. So we've got to let him go. So that's what they do. They let him go. And, this guy was really good at his job. Let's not forget the people he didn't kill on these trains. So another company hires him, thinking he's learned his lesson, to come work for them. And you know what? Didn't learn his lesson. The need for speed was still there. He's only at this job a week, and he's done the same thing again, hasn't he? But this time, he's pushed it even further past the recommended speed, even further past the point he pushed it past. And the train this time, when it comes off the rail, it doesn't just kill 2 people. It kills a whole carriage load of people. We're talking about 10, 15 people, all dead. He's arrested because he survives this somehow and goes to court. It's the same judge. It's like, wow, I thought we were here to set a precedent the first time around. This time, let's get to it, man. Bang, 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 death. Sentence off, goes off the court to prison, sitting there on death row, thinking about what he's done, until the executioner comes around and says, well, back again, eh? No one's gotten past me yet, and I knew you wouldn't get past me. What do you want for your last meal, Sparky? Haha, he says, knowing what's going to happen to him. And the guy says, for my last meal, I would like a single solitary banana. Executioner bears this in mind. This is what happened last time. Okay, gives him his banana. Same dealio the next day with everyone's, there, the executioner people, the priest and all that. Strap him in the chair, sponge on his head, bucket on top of that. Eerily calm about this, mind you. They say, well, second time the charm. They pull the switch, sparks, lights in and out, smoke, riddle about in the chair, all that business. Lights come back on. You know what's going to happen? He's still alive. He's still alive. And they're all shocked, obviously, but not as shocked as last time. They're like, oh my God, for real? For real? Are we still doing this? Well, we decided what was going to happen, didn't we? You know, the sentence was the electric chair. He was in the electric chair. We're going to rewrite this. We're going to think about this. But for now, you're free to go. So they let him go. And, you know, obviously it's going to be hard to get a job having killed so many people. But he manages it. He gets a job again on the trains, third time, put in the same position. Thinking, well, maybe he's learned his lesson, or maybe he's just working cheaper. I don't know the inner workings of it. All I know is he gets this job back again. And you know what he does? Full pedal to the metal again, way faster than any train has ever been built to go or should ever go. And this time, it's a total disaster. When it comes off the rails, it goes into the train station, wipes out all the bypasses. Not 2 people, not 10 people, 100 people, all dead, smushed within it. But this guy still survives somehow. He's still alive enough to be arrested and sentenced in a very quick trial where they say, this time, if you get out of that chair, we're going to strap you back in. We're going to think of something else. Okay? Bang, bang, death. Send them off to prison. Not going to let them sit around on death row waiting, thinking about all this past mistakes. They're just going to get straight to it, and they're going to fry this mother with 10 times the dosage they used the last 2 times. But, you know, they're not savages. There's a procedure in place. They say, for your last meal, what do you want? And he says, I would like a single solitary banana. The executioner says, no, I'm not giving you another banana. I don't know how this is a tribute into the situation, but you're not getting your banana. You murdering train man psychopath. And he slams the door and he's waiting there thinking about what he's done until the next day when they open the cell door, they drag him, they chuck him in the chair, they strap him in, put all the juice right up to the top, add some extra batteries to the thing just so there's a lot of electricity running through this thing right now. You know, the survivors' families, hundreds of them all watching, the priest there, he's pretty sure it's going to work this time. Pull the switch one more time, lights go out, smoke goes on, butter, 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 butter. The lights come on again. He's still alive. The executioner is livid. He says, this is ridiculous. How do you keep surviving? I didn't even give you a banana this time. And the guy in the chair says, oh, the bananas, they had nothing to do with it. Just a bad conductor. I'm just a bad conductor.
Wasn't the best. It's not the best.
No.
So that was the joke. Didn't get that much of a laugh, did it? But subversion is the key element of comedy, so expecting a joke to be funny and it's not that funny is in itself funny. Let me try and justify that to you now with looking at the joke through the classical 3-act structure, depicting all the elements of humour within, starting with Act 1. We start with the setup. You can't really start something without setting it up first, can you? It's the establishment of the world and the characters. The setup to this joke is a guy who likes trains. Comic potential's there already. It's not a story that you've heard 100 times before, so you're interested. Your interest within the character is more not why am I rooting for him, but why am I still listening to this? Why is this character going to entertain me? And with this joke, what really hooks the listener is the tragic element of it, the comic tragedy. And if you're making a movie based around tragedy, then there has to be tragedy within it. But because this is a joke, the tragedy is formulaic. So you understand that something terrible happening within the setup of a premise of a joke is going to lead to a punchline. So you're not thinking, oh my god, those poor people. Your interest is going to be more along the lines of, how is this going to evolve over the course of the joke? Which we establish via the build-up. Now, the build-up of the joke is where you can start to put in your own personal take on it. Depends on the showmanship you wish to apply to it. When you retell a joke that you've heard before, you have a script that's not written down, essentially. You have a formula, like stories that are passed down over time, become embellished to become more entertaining, more relatable to the person you're talking to. But regardless of if you're inventing new elements or sticking to the exact version you've heard, the key is to build up enough interest in Act 1 that people will need to see what happens in Act 2. So here we are in Act 2. The key points of Act 1 were set up, comic premise. Comic premise of this seemingly revolves around the idea of the banana. Its introduction to the premise is bizarre. It's what draws the focus in. It's where you understand the punchline of the joke is going to come from, so that's the part you pay attention to. So you've got your comic premise set up, which lets us now get into the body of the joke. Now, the body of the joke is where all the legwork's done here. Act 1's got the listener on the hook, so within the body of the joke is where you can really begin to personalize the content, but really, its focus should be on the delivery. So what are the aspects of delivery that need to happen in Act 2? As you've noted from the joke itself, Act 2 thematically is exactly the same as Act 1. With my telling of the joke, I add my own personalization of making more victims in each crash, because escalation is a big important part of all this. So the body in Act 2 is where the escalation needs to come from, but that can't happen without a good delivery. So what are the key aspects of delivery? Tempo. The rhythmic pattern of the joke. A slow, meandering pace of your delivery is going to make for a boring joke. You can't have that, but you also need to deliver information. If the listener's not getting new information from the joke, then they might tune out. So your personalization of the joke still does need to include information that's going to be useful when we get to Act 3. It's all about pacing and colour. Now, colour is essentially the same thing as your own personal take, but that can also mean more detail as well. And I guess that depends on the kind of audience you're telling the joke to. If you can see that they're on the hook, then you can add more colour in terms of your description. Describe the prison that the guy finds himself in, the foreboding sense of dread in the execution chamber, or chair, or whatever. You can go into detail about the victims and their family and put them in the audience watching it, waiting for the guy who killed their loved ones to be sentenced to this crime, only to come back to life again. The more narrators you put on the joke, the better, because the more sets of eyes that see it, and the more narrators that react to it, then the more ludicrous it is, because you've got different points of view pointing out how crazy the situation is. But if you're anything like me, the body of the joke is where you start to overexert yourself in your delivery, so we need to taper as we get into Act 3. This is really where the joke lives or dies. As I have talked about in other videos on the channel, comedy really is about escalation, building on a comic premise till it reaches its zenith, however you pronounce that word. What you don't want to do, though, is just tell the punchline in the middle of the escalation, or not give enough time for the escalation to settle before you get to the punchline. What you want to do is taper off. Tapering, a method that runners use to slow down before hitting the final sprint, means to basically take your time with it. Don't blow the comic load too soon. In terms of the performance of the joke as well, this is where you want to make sure that you've still got the audience's attention. You can slow down here to make sure that when you slow down, the listener is leaning in to see what's going to happen next. So you've done everything you have to up until this point. You've set the premise up, you've built on it, your timing and delivery has been perfect throughout, until you get to the final escalation. The final escalation being the moment before the punchline. To keep with the running metaphor again, this would be the finishing kick, which is when the marathon runner is so tired from running a marathon but sees the finish line in sight, so they realise that they have to go into overdrive, they have to do the finishing kick. Now, of course, with this joke we're talking about here, the punchline is so annoyingly obvious that if you yell at someone, it won't land. You need to take it slow, so even once they hear the punchline, it will still take them a few seconds to connect the dots. Which is why I do it with the repeat on the delivery there. If you were to yell, I'm a bad conductor, then you would be making fun of yourself as much as you are making fun of the joke. And you don't want to make fun of the joke because it's actually a good joke. When you reach the conclusion, your audiences are going to be thinking, well, why did we spend all that time talking about bananas? Hopefully they're not going to be thinking, well, in the world of this joke, what happened to those poor victims' families? It may even not cross their mind that it's set in Bulgaria and there's no need for it to be set in Bulgaria. There's no offensive stereotypes in there. There's no mentions of the Bulgarian train systems or anything like that. It's just the Bulgaria part of it is something that I thought someone invented for their version of the joke, but have looked it up and found different sources using the Bulgarian part of it. It's a pun. This whole joke is a pun. It's a pun on the word conductor. You have to bury that in the lead, which is why putting Bulgaria and banana in there is very misleading. Some people might be a bit pissed off that you've misled them, but I would think most people just enjoy the fact that you just told them a great joke, and that's how it worked. So, like I said, that was a very different episode, although if you for some reason thought that made more sense than the other episodes I do on comedy and you want to see more dissections of jokes, I can do more of them because they're pretty easy to make. Comment below. But while you're here anyway, do check out the other videos on Top Hats and Canes, including the new sketch show, Pre-Rejected Sketches, and past episodes of Let Me Tell You Why That's Funny.